Okay, so some of you that already know that I lost my son to suicide September the 5th, 2025, in Jefferson County, Colorado, on a pedestrian bridge during his last relapse. And he had been clean and doing great, doing amazing, and suddenly out of the blue, there was a relapse. Well, that relapse took him into a meth-induced psychosis that was hallucinations that were not happening. It was not real, but in his mind, it was very real. And he took his life on that bridge that morning, and about 2:30 in the morning. So through my pain and my anguish, I didn't know what to do. Like, my heart and soul have just been ripped out of me, right? Like, I am broken, and I didn't know what to do. I found the number 988. Okay, so I started calling 988 in the middle of the night when I would wake up around 2:30. I couldn't breathe, and I could smell gunpowder, and I was just a mess, right? And I wasn't gonna hurt my own self, but I didn't know how to process these things, and I didn't have anybody that I could talk to that knew how to process these things or had dealt with it right then at that time. Since then, I have met a few mothers who have lost their sons to suicide. And it's unfortunate when you realize how many families are completely impacted by that, right? Like, I had no idea. And so through reaching out to 988, I made connections that were something I could rely on, right? It's 24/7 nationwide. You can call anytime, and they're there for you. And even if it's just you lost somebody, you need to talk, or you're panicking or anxiety, or if you're in traffic and you need to pull over and call 988. If you are having any kind of issues of being close to the edge, or looking over the edge, or even thinking about it. Unfortunately, the Native American community is the largest population of people in the United States with the highest suicide rates, right? And so I couldn't just let my son just be forgotten and be a statistic. So I started reaching out for merchandise, keychains and stickers and little notepads with magnetics, and bracelets, and different kinds of keychains. And I put those on the chain link fence where his memorial is on that pedestrian bridge. And people can take them, and maybe through this I can help save someone, or even save another mother the pain. There's something that I didn't know, is that they don't clean that up. So when I went to go view where he had last taken his last breath, there was big pools of blood that they had literally just thrown some potting soil on, and that had absorbed. And since he had sat there for a few hours, it went all the way down the stairs of that pedestrian bridge. And so I cleaned that up, because it was a Friday morning, and they had shut down the bridge so the kids couldn't cross, right, while they were dealing with the scene. So then I was finally able to make it there, I think Saturday night or Sunday morning. And because I didn't have any money in the bank to plan for this. I didn't have anything. I had to borrow money so I could drive to Colorado. And when I saw that, And I actually put my hand in my son's blood. I I was a mess. I fell apart completely, and I was trying to be this strong one, for his widow and his two children, and trying to be like, I'm gonna be there, that I'm gonna be their support. I'm gonna not let them see me break down. And so I'd wait till they would like go to school or go to sleep, and then I would break down and have my meltdowns then. And they wouldn't even let me view my son. I didn't get to say goodbye to him or see him. By the time they finally let me go in to bless his body, um, because I couldn't get a medicine man to go do that at the last minute, I couldn't find the help that I needed to help me bless him through our traditional medicines. So I took some cedar and sage and sweetgrass and a prayer that was read at my it actually was translated in the mid 1800s by a Lakota chief, and it was something that my grandparents had for who knows how long. It was so old that it was actually burned into leather, and so I got a copy of that because it was read at my grandfather's funeral and at my father's funeral. And so I read it at my son's blessing. But I wasn't expecting to have to say goodbye to my son ever. Like, ever. And then when I showed up, he was in a body bag in a cardboard box with the blanket covering it. That's what I got to hug to say goodbye to my son. That's what I blessed when I smudged and prayed. And I took some cedar and sweetgrass and sage in with them. And they only gave me a few minutes. Like, I don't even think we had 15 minutes. And the only reason they let me do this is because I got my reservation involved. And the tribal offices got a hold of Colorado. And so they gave me that opportunity. I need to drink up my coffee. Hold on. So, Devil's Tower. It's a great place. Anyway, so, I had to say goodbye that way and say the prayers that way. And I almost didn't get to do that. If I would not have been told by other people, my friends on Facebook, to reach out to the tribe, I would not have known that they would stand up for me and him being tribal members of the Rosebud Sioux tribe. And so I was able to say goodbye, and I watched them wheel him into the oven, for lack of a better word, at the mortuary. And then the cardboard box fell open, and you could see the body bag for a split second, and then they closed the door, and then they closed the curtain, and they were like, all right, have a good day, see you later, bye. And that was something that is such a raw cocktail of emotions that I didn't even know. I can't even tell you the feelings that I felt. But at the same time, I was still trying to be very strong because my granddaughter was with us. My grandson was too young for that. My granddaughter was with us, and my son's widow was with me. And so I was still trying to be the strong one, And but at some point you have to be real, and you have to feel it, right? So I through reaching out through 988, I was invited to be an advocate for the Rosebud Sioux tribe, and up here in the Black Hills to uh, you know, talk to people, share my story and my pain and my son's story, so it'll help keep him alive, in a way, And then my dad, before he died, he had told me how heartbreaking it was to always be called for a pallbearer for another young person to be buried. And I don't know if you guys know how we do it on the reservation, but on the reservation, if somebody's buried and not cremated, we bury them ourselves. We all get a shovel and we bury them ourselves. It's not, a bobcat that comes in or whatever, it's not trench digger. I can't even think of the word right now because I'm just discombobulated in my brain right now. But so I agreed yesterday that I would go through the training so I could be a community outreach representative or advocate for survivors and for people that are thinking about harming themselves. And I wanted to let you know that a relapse doesn't mean that everything has to be over, right? Like, you can still fix things, You can go to detox, you can go to treatment, or you can go to sleep and wake up and decide not to do it again. But you don't know who might need you. Maybe not today, and maybe they didn't need you yesterday, but maybe in your future there is that person that needs you. Somebody needs you to stay alive, right? It's still very hard for me to find words for all of this. And I'm still not okay, right? I am very broken. And I don't know how long. I believe, my life will never be the same. Obviously, I lost my son. And when I go see my grandkids and my daughter-in-law, my son's widow, he's no longer going to be a part of those visits, right? The holidays are going to be decorating the memorial on the bridge. And he's always going to be greatly missed. And he was such a good man. He didn't like bullies. He did not like people that hurt children. He was a righteous, a good man when he was clean. But the drug had such a hold on him that even after all that time of being clean and getting healthy and gaining his weight back and looking just top shape health, and he was an arborist in the Rocky Mountains. That's a tough job, and he loved it. He loved it. He didn't care what the weather was. He didn't care how close to the wires he was. Like, he was so good at it. They were about to make him a foreman. And they knew something was going on with him, but they didn't know what. And so they gave him a couple of days off work. And then we all found out, and he didn't go back to work, but it impacted his boss so much that he had actually taken my son's hard hat and work clothes and jacket with his name on it and stuff home, because he didn't know really what to do with them at that point. And now my grandchildren have those things, luckily that they weren't thrown away or anything, his boss was very touched. The people he worked with were also very touched. My son was such an amazing person that people just loved him. All kinds of people, he was funny and he was smart. He graduated a year early from high school, and he also homeschooled his girlfriend at the time. Turned out to be his widow now, but when they were 16, he homeschooled her so that she was able to get her high school diploma and not a GED. He was an amazing person, and they had spent most of their life together. They got together when they were 16, and they had just celebrated their 16th anniversary. And I don't know what the trigger was. I don't know why he relapsed. And those answers, I'm probably just never gonna have those answers, right? Like, but because of that relapse, he's gone. And I will live the rest of my life without my son. And his children will live the rest of their life without their dad. And we're broken. It has been a few months, and people do say, you should be over it by now, or you should have expected it, or you should have seen it coming, or don't carry that. Don't carry those things that people that haven't lived through this might be saying to you. Because, it's grief has no time, and everybody grieves differently. I pray and I burn candles, I smudge, and I talk to people, and I got these materials. I ordered the materials so that I could pass them out and put them on his memorial. And I told people that had reached out from one of my videos that go to, because they live in that area, Wheat Ridge, Golden, Jefferson County, Colorado, Lakewood, it's right there. I told them to go to his memorial and grab a bracelet or a keychain. And if that helps you stay clean, just by looking at it and remembering my son and what happened, or if you're feeling like you're at the edge and you know that you have that person, somebody will answer the call. No matter what, somebody will answer your call, and you will have someone to talk to. But I also got this box that they sent for free, and it's a combination lockbox for medications. So if you have a teenager or a young child that is in the home and you have medications, even Tylenol is deadly, right? And so if you have medications and you want to keep them protected, this will deter a child from getting into your medications. And you can see it's not huge, but they sent it to me for free. And this came from the South Dakota Coalition of the Suicide Awareness and Prevention Program. And like I said, they sent it to me free. And this combination right here could be the matter of life and death for a teenager or a grandchild visiting, right? And I'm not anti-gun. I have a National Rifle Association shirt on. I'm not anti-firearm. I am anti-illegal firearm. The firearm he used was stolen. He had bought it, and so he wasn't the one that stole it, but he did buy it. And give me a second, I need to blow my nose. Okay, I'm sorry about that. I had to blow my nose. So I reached out to the detective on this case, and he said that it didn't matter. He was not going to look through my son's phone, even with family permission or a warrant, any of that. He was not concerned about where the gun came from or where the drugs came from, because it wasn't a murder or an overdose. But in my opinion, and I'm not a detective by any means, well, maybe I was when I was younger, like super sleuthing, whatever. But the fact that our law enforcement, Jefferson County, Colorado's law enforcement specifically, said that because it wasn't a suicide or it wasn't an overdose or a murder, they had absolutely no interest in who was selling those stolen guns. The .40 caliber that took my son's life was stolen, and there was part of the serial number still left on the firearm. So I don't know why they couldn't have matched that with someone that had already had it reported stolen, unless they didn't report it stolen, didn't know it was stolen. Do not leave your firearms in your vehicle. Do not do that. It's silly. I'm Gen X. We grew up, the boys in high school had their rifles in the back windows. It was a different world. My first experience with, even school drama like we have today was Columbine. And I lived just a couple blocks from the high school. And I was actually getting my car I was at the admissions place when it happened. And that's one of the moments that I knew that we live in a completely different world than what I grew up in. And, so, I need you to know as voters that, more laws for, legal gun owners are not gonna be saving these situations from happening, right? Okay, because he was a felon, he couldn't have got his own gun. But the fact that the law enforcement wouldn't even look through his phone when the information is in his phone, it definitely is. They also had us believing that his truck was impounded, but then later told us, days later, told us that it was not impounded and they didn't know where it was. And so when we did find his gun, it was full of ammunition and paraphernalia and all that. Well, we let the detective know where it was, and he had no interest in that. A truck full of .40 caliber bullets, several boxes of them, and then loose bullets all over. And the door was unlocked. They didn't go pick it up, and we waited a week. I went and checked on it every day to make sure that it was still there and everything was still in it. And the family, it had to be taken care of by the family. The police had no interest. No interest whatsoever in the stolen guns that are on the streets of Jefferson County, Colorado, that are taking lives. So, think about that as a voter. I believe in having your own gun for protection. I believe that you should be able to hunt your own food, right? Support your own self, be self-sufficient, and protect your home and your property and your people and what you have with your legal firearm. But I do not condone stolen firearms where it's a one-stop shop. You could go to, the guy was multitasking, the seller. He was selling stolen guns and he was selling drugs. He had, from the evidence that was found just by us, he was definitely multitasking, and he was, there was some cartel involvement, and the detectives did not care. They did not care. And like I said, if it wasn't for my own reservation stepping in to let me be able to bless his body before they cremated him, I would not have even have been able to do that, because I'm a tribal member, and my father, so like I'm seventh generation. So he's eighth generation enrolled with the Rosebud Sioux tribe. And so the tribe stood up for me and gave me that time with my son before he was cremated. But if it wasn't for the tribe, I wouldn't have even had that little bit of time. And it wasn't even 15 minutes. And then, he was in a body bag in a cardboard box covered up with a blanket. And that's what I had to hug and say goodbye to. You could tell that his legs were still bent a little bit. And so what they did was they removed the blanket, and they put you on the other side of the glass and open a curtain so you could see the box and the body bag being rolled into the oven. And then at one point inside there, the box just falls apart. Like all four sides just open up, and you could see the body bag for a minute. And then they closed the curtains, or the door closed to the oven. And then they closed the curtains, and they were like, all right, see you later. Have a good day. We'll let you know when his cremations are ready to be picked up. And, that was it. Kind of like when my dad died in the hospice, and I was holding his body, and they came and took his body out of my arms. And within seconds, it seemed like the room was cleaned and ready for somebody else. There is a lot of things that I have learned now that will surprise you when a loved one dies, and how the industry is just about money and making money, and not really interested in the people. I couldn't find a medicine man at the last minute in Colorado to bless his body. And some medicine men won't bless a body of a suicide. And so through me reaching out to 988 in the middle of the night, I'm going to be an advocate. I'm going through the training so that hopefully I can help save other people from having to go through some of these same things, right? And that is the only way that I can think of to focus this energy so that it doesn't eat me up alive. Like I have lost 30 pounds. Amazingly, I didn't have friends come to the door to give condolences. I didn't receive a card in the mail, not a flower. Like, there really was no support once I got home. And that was very hard. I had to have a elderly friend that I call Other Mother, because she has definitely become my family. I'm a part of her family, her and her husband and her kids. And, well, I didn't get that big, strong I love you hug until I got back from Colorado, and I drove over an hour up into the hills to their place. And they held me, and they showed me the love that I hadn't received, and the compassion, and they let me talk about him without, like, when you gonna stop crying, and when are you gonna, whatever. And there was no pressure. It was just pure love and patience and understanding of what I have gone through with him. And I don't even really know exactly what to say. It's still very raw, and I am still in so much pain. And I still wake up in the middle of the night with, like, I can't breathe and I can smell the gunpowder. And then I have, like, my brain is traumatized to the point that it actually believes it could smell the cremation still, right? And you couldn't smell the cremation. It was a legit, regulatory mortuary. So they there was no smell. We drove around to the back after they had us leave. We drove around to the back of the building, and you could see a little bit of smoke coming out, but there was no smell. And sorry, I started smoking again since he died. I was doing really good because I had to have my neck rebuilt and some titanium put in there, and so I was doing really good until this happened. And so, I mean, I suppose this is better than drinking or whatever, because I have not I have not had a drink. I'm not a real big drinker, and maybe in my younger years or whatever, but uh, um I haven't. I felt every bit of this. I didn't drink it away. I didn't try to drown my sorrows in a bottle or whatever, because it doesn't work anyway. And the older you get, the worse the hangovers are anyway. So that's not something that, you know, I didn't want to mask the pain. I felt like I owed it to him to do this sober and to feel every bit of it. And I felt that I owed that to him, right? So, I am going to learn to hopefully speak better and maybe not have such a scattered brain kind of conversation, because that's kind of what I feel like. I'm just like scatterbrained right now. I'm a mess, and but I'm getting better. Maybe, I don't know. Today, I didn't have a complete meltdown when I was passing out stickers and keychains with the 988 number. I went out today and I was passing them out, and I didn't have a meltdown while I was explaining what was going on and why I wanted to be this, why I accepted this position and an invitation to be an advocate for life, for better lives. But I do remember my dad telling me that it was just tearing him up each time he had to be a pallbearer for another young person, because the Native American community has the highest suicide rate in the nation. And that's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. So I want you to know that you can call 988 anytime, day or night, and somebody will talk to you. And I also need you to know that even if you feel alone right now, you still have a whole life ahead of you. And so you don't know the person that might need you. You might not have met them yet, right? Or maybe there's a whole family that needs you right now. And for men, it's actually very hard, because a lot of people expect men to not have any emotions or not to show any emotions and just to be the provider, and get things done, But we need to allow our men to feel, right? Even me struggling throughout my entire life was a struggle and a fight one way or another. It was just not easy. In coming from the family and the way that I was raised was very difficult. I knew my daddy loved me, but he worked all the time. And for a while he was an outlaw biker, so he wasn't always around. But my mother was an addict also, so my dad had to get sober to take care of 4 kids. So I grew up with like AA meetings in the house because in order for him to stay sober, he had to have a community, right? He had to still be able to ride his Harley and build Harleys and shoot pool and shoot darts and do those things that he loved to do, but in a community where it was sober and it was safe and supportive. And so find that community, find those people that when you are having a really bad day and you really, really need someone, they're not just going to be like, well, let's just go get trashed, trailer trashed or drunk, whatever. Let's not go get some dope. Let's not go get some fentanyl or whatever, whatever. Pain is heavy, but it will make you a stronger person if you learn to feel it and live through it without masking it and burying it and putting it in a filing cabinet. It's okay to be a man and to feel pain and to speak up about it. I was, when I was in college for human services, one of my professors, she said that we had failed men for generations because I come from the I'll give you something to cry about generation, right? And if men were crying, they were a sissy or whatever, and so we failed them by not letting them express their emotion and have emotion. They're more than just the provider, right? And as I might have said, I support our gun rights, right? We should be able to defend our house, home, and our people. And but we need to pay more attention to the stolen guns that are on the streets that the detectives don't care about. They don't care who's selling them, and they don't care who sold the drugs because it wasn't an overdose or a murder. But the way I see it is, yes, it was a murder, and I mean, it was kind of an overdose because if he wasn't on that much meth, he would not have had that meth-induced psychosis, right? How is it that you can give somebody fentanyl and they die and you're charged with murder, but you give them a stolen firearm and they shoot themselves in the head and it's not murder, right? Like, you gave them the weapon to do it with while he was high and you knew what he was going to do with it. So I know, that I went to school for criminology, human services, and federal Indian law. So I know that there are fine lines between the way that they draw the lines of the law. But as voters and as humans, we need to start standing up for ourselves a little bit better. I even tried to reach out to the news stations and let them know that those Jefferson County Sheriff's Department did not even have any interest at all in looking into my son's phone to find out where that gun came from or where that dope came from. They didn't care about getting his truck locked up and off the street while it was full of ammunition. Full of ammunition. I don't know that there wasn't another firearm in the truck at the time. The police told us that if we found it, we were not to do anything with it and we're not to touch it. We could be charged if we touched it, right? So when I found my son's truck, I'm his mom. I brought him into this world. I got in his truck and I sat in his driver's seat. And I felt the steering wheel, and I smelled him, knowing that that was one of the last places that he was alive, right? And I didn't want to get out of the truck. I wanted to be able to sit there for hours and hours and hours But I knew that there was cameras all over the city, and that's how they told us where the last place the truck had been seen, on an intersection camera right across the street from the dope house, and only 5 blocks away from the bridge where he shot himself at. And I want you to know one thing too, though, about the character of my son. When they told me that he shot himself with his left hand, I was a little bit confused because my son is right-handed. But he's also very skilled with both hands, because he's an arborist, so he's always up in the trees with chainsaws and all that. So, but they would not even show me the pictures from the crime scene, right? So I got a hold of one of the coroners who, bless his heart, he really, really walked me through some questions that maybe not a lot of parents would have, right? Like, is his head intact? Was it like JFK where, part of it is somewhere else? Or, like I needed to know these things because I couldn't see him, right? And for over a week, I didn't believe that while we were waiting for the coroner to go through, do all their stuff, and talk screens and everything, I sat out on the deck of their condo waiting for him to come through that fence again, because I thought for sure, he was just out on a relapse, and that maybe it wasn't him, that somebody had stolen his wallet or whatever, right? And so I sat there waiting day and night. I sat there for hours and hours and hours because I just knew he was going to come through that gate and be like, "Hey, Mom, what are you doing here?" or whatever, And he didn't. And it really was him. And he is really gone. And the only thing I could do now is try to focus all of this energy and this sadness and this pain. Sorry, I'm gonna light this. Sometimes it is easier if I just hold on to it and not ever light it for a while, and then it slows me down from smoking as much. But since my son has died, I have smoked way too much. And I'm all congested from crying and coughing and, everything anyway. And it's been so cold, you couldn't even get out of the house to go do anything to try to get your mind right, because it's been freezing. And I am not a fan of the cold. So I'm not going to go for a jog at 7 degrees outside or whatever. And I never learned to snowboard because I figured I was probably way too clumsy for that and for skiing. And I liked roller skating inside with 4 wheels on the roller skates. I'm Gen X, so I didn't have the inline blades and stuff. What are they called? Anyway, but rollerblades. I just want you to know that even if you're alone right now today, you don't know who might be needing you in the future. You might not have met the person that needs you the most yet. But I know that if you have children, this is not the legacy that you want to leave them, right? And you don't want to take your own life and then have your daughter have some hard times and decide, well, if dad or if mom or if auntie or cousin or whoever did it, maybe I should do it too. Maybe I'll, that is the one thing we can control in this world, is if we take ourselves out of it, right? We don't want to do that. There's so many people that are hurting right now and that need someone. So check on your people. Call them, text them, send a card. I'm always mailing cards to people, and check on your people. And don't believe I'm fine, because I had somebody just tell me, what was it? It was give me just 1 second. Or maybe a couple of seconds, actually. I don't know where I wrote it down at right this second. I have notes everywhere right now, because I'm, trying to organize and get involved and re-educate myself on some things that I might not have remembered from college. It's been a while. But fine. So FINE, right? I'm fine. So that could be F, freaked out, I, insecure, N, neurotic, and E, emotional, right? So when somebody says, I'm fine, there's there could be something deeper there, right? But I know there's a lot of people that are only going to get more angry at you if you push, or and I know from having addicts in my life, in my family, and my son being addicted the years that he was, that the one person that is really trying to keep you clean and keep you alive is the one that becomes the enemy for so long, because you're trying to stop the fun, right? So their friends or their spouses or anybody that is getting high with them or off of them or using them just for that is going to make you the enemy. They're going to be the whispering in the ear and just nibbling away at all the trust that you have in that relationship, because they have to get rid of you and make you the bad person so that they can go get high off of you or your money or your connections or whatever. And just remember that. Think about the way people talk to you and who says what, because your mom might be trying to get you to stay home just so you don't go out and drink, or don't end up a drunk driving accident death, or a drunk driving accident murderer, or an OD, or a suicide by firearm. Check on your people. And I know it seems like I'm rambling. This is new to me, and I don't really know how to say it shortly, or the cliff notes of it, right? I'm broken, and I cry still every day because I miss my son so much. And as a parent, you feel like so much. There's so much guilt or regret or shoulda, coulda, woulda, and those are damaging. Those are damaging. Should've, could've, and would've. You didn't. And so you can't force that on yourself, right? You can't carry that. It's not your fault. You didn't give them the gun, right? Well, in some cases it might be different, but I didn't give him the gun. I have never been a meth addict. I've never been on meth. I wasn't into that kind of thing. So I was not a part of influencing an addiction. I had addict parents. And my dad, he had to create a community to stay sober, like I said. And so he even created a sober motorcycle club so that they could ride together, and we'd go to camp outs when I was a teenager, and everybody there, all the adults were sober. And it was a safe place. And it was, the Alano Club. I don't know if every town had one, but Salina, Kansas had an Alano Club. And they did Halloween parties for the families, on Halloween. It was like a bar setup, but it was sober, so you could shoot pool, you could throw darts, you could do all those things that you did with your community before, but without the drugs and the booze. And so yes, I am going to train to be an advocate for suicide awareness and prevention, and try to save some lives and maybe save another mother from having a completely broken, destroyed heart. But there are other issues behind that, right? You have alcoholism and drug abuse or domestic violence or there's all kinds of things that could be behind it. And that's where we need to focus on. We have a huge mental health and behavior issue in this country. When I was younger, you just got put in reform school. You screwed up too much, they locked you up. There was almost zero tolerance, and unfortunately, many of those places were abusing children. And we need to find a way to bring back healthy school counselors, real school counselors, and groups. And SAD, what happened to Students Against Drunk Driving, MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and teaching life skills. Like if you're teaching life skills in high school, your sons and daughters know how to change their own tire, so they're not a victim on the side of the road waiting for someone else, right? They can do it themselves. There's all kinds of different things that we could do to build our youth into being stronger people. And I'm just not talking about Native American right now, because I am mixed blood. And so I am in the middle of two, and sometimes I don't feel like I fit into either one, and sometimes I feel more one than the other, or whatever. Okay, if you take anything from this big ramble, take it that somebody needs you. And even if you and your family are estranged and haven't spoken for a little while or whatever, it's going to hurt them. And they're going to carry it for a very long time. My grandson is 8 years old. He has the rest of his life to go. And all he has is some pictures and videos of his dad. My granddaughter doesn't have her dad to go to archery classes with her anymore, to walk her down the aisle, or to scare her first boyfriend, Those things they're gone. And unfortunately, my son's widow had already lost her dad, so they don't have the grandpa either. And my dad is gone, so they don't have that manly influence either, the righteous man. And it's gradually feeling worse for us, because the longer they're gone, the more holidays that they're not there, the more you will make a meal, just a dinner. You'll make dinner one night, and you'll all of a sudden be like, I wish, he could taste this. He would love this, or you're going for a hike and you know that he would have loved that, and he would have wanted to go fishing, or, whatever, those opportunities are gone now for all of us with him. 988. Call them any time or day. It does not matter. Somebody will be there for you. And they do have resources. They through the program in Colorado, they sent me a book, No Time to Say Goodbye. I have not read it yet because I have to go to the eye doctor to get my prescription fixed because I can't really read very well right now. And after suicide, and they sent me the journal, with the dragonfly, the semicolon, which is crazy because when I saw on Facebook that it looked like my son might have taken his life, I grabbed my tobacco and my tobacco ties and everything, my sage, and I raced up in my Jeep to Bear Butte Mountain, a sacred prayer spot for us. And I had one tobacco tie rolled or tied up, and I had prayed, and each one is a prayer. So I had one done when the sheriff's department called me. And so I just laid down on the ground, and I was crying and screaming. And I was like, what do I do now? What do I do? Like, what happens now? And she didn't have any answers. But I looked, this is in September in South Dakota. It was already getting chilly. And I looked up, and there was a dragonfly that landed right down on the ground in front of me. And I was like, a dragonfly just landed in front of me. And it was already still warmer in Colorado than it was in South Dakota, so she didn't really understand the impact of what that meant right then and there. But so this, they have these journals, and they have some other journals too, I was told that, so when you open it up, the first thing is, the Fable of the Dragonfly, and then more of the 988 information. And this one, I believe is from Colorado, Suicide Coalition of Colorado, .org. And, so they give you prompts like I feel, and one of the other prompts is I need, and then what is important for me today is, and so they give you little prompts to help you learn how to journal if you've not been able to journal, or if you've never done it. Like I wish you had known. And then the other ones, I wish I had known. And then so they go through a few of these prompts, so that you could have some ideas of what to write about. And then they have like blank pages at the end. And then they have like some artistic expression pages. And then they have just the blank pages for the journal. And I highly recommend getting in touch with whatever state you're in with finding these resources if you are a survivor, and reaching out to 988 so that you don't create survivors in your family. You know what I mean? Or victims and survivors. And I'm not sure right now where I'm at in that. Like, I don't know if I am a victim of my son's suicide or of the POS that sold him the drugs and the guns. But I am still surviving. So, and I'm going to survive it. It's not going to be the end of me. Sorry, my nose is just, I cry a lot now, and so I'm sorry, excuse me. But let's work together to try to end these suicides. I think the ages between the highest age group for suicide is like, I think 14 to 24, 25, something. I mean, it's not very old, right? And these aren't just veterans. Our veterans need us too. But these are regular people, fathers and brothers and mothers and sisters and cousins and aunties and maybe the love of your life that you have not met yet. And I don't know how else to say it, but I feel now that it's been like almost an hour, so you're probably tired of hearing me. But Please reach out. Reach out if you feel like you need someone to listen to you right then and there. Reach out if you need to, if you are in pain because you lost someone that you greatly love. um, Reach out. Reach out and check on people. Um, I had been going through a lot of health things right before this, and so I hadn't been actively participating in the friendships of the people that love me. I was sleeping a lot and I was sick and I just was miserable. And at some point, I got tired of just not having anything good to say on like a Facebook post or whatever, or the message, like I felt like everything I had to say was negative or sad or depressing. And I didn't want to put that energy on anyone. I didn't want to put that on them. I was going to carry it myself and figure it out. And then I was coming out of this depression, this dark place that I was in. And my son took his life. And I just reach out to people. Please reach out. Because, like I said, there's things that you will find out when somebody dies that you don't even know are a real thing. Like, how do they not clean up the blood off of a pedestrian bridge that kids cross every day to and from school? Like, how do you not protect children from having to see that, or the parents? Like, I was not prepared to see that, and I was not prepared to have to say goodbye to my son through a body bag and a blanket inside a cardboard box, right? These things, they don't always tell you. But I brought him into this world, and he was born on Friday the 13th. And I was very young. His umbilical cord is wrapped 4 times around his neck. And so every single contraction I was having was killing him. So he was a miracle. He came into this world, into a world of chaos. He was born into a world of chaos. I was going to be there as his body and as his body went up to the Creator. I needed to be there. I needed to be there to pray, to bless him, for all of it. And I can't even remember everything I said. I read that prayer and I smudged and I tucked him in with some cedar and some sweetgrass and some sage. And his widow put in some pictures and some other mementos. And then he was cremated. I didn't know that they could actually tell you, no, you can't see your son's body. And I even asked the coroner, I said, so even if I was to fill out a Freedom of Information Act, you still can't release those pictures to me? No, I can't see those pictures. But because of his description through those pictures, I was able to know exactly where my son was sitting. And I know why he used his left hand instead of his right hand. If he would have used his right hand, the bullet would have went through and through, and traffic on I-70, somebody could have been a victim. With him using his left hand, the bullet went through and through into an empty parking lot of an empty business that was not open and nobody was there. And they never found it, so it didn't get lodged in somebody's vehicle or a window or whatever. But even everything he was facing right then and there and going through right then at that exact moment, he still chose to be sure that he wasn't going to take somebody else out with him. And that, for a long time, Once I figured that out and I sat exactly where he was, except for I couldn't reach where his feet would, he's 6 foot, I'm 5'2". But, uh, once, once I knew where he was sitting, I knew exactly why he used his left hand and not his right hand. Because he didn't want to make any more victims. So even in his darkest moments on his way out of this world, he was still looking out for other people. Check on your people. And I'm going to get better at this, hopefully. And so, as I know more and as I learn more and as I do some things, I will keep you posted. But my son's name was Brian, and he was born on November 13th of 1992, and he left the world on Friday, September 5th, 2025. And he had a whole life ahead of him. And he was a good dad. He was beautiful, smart, athletic. He lettered in lacrosse. He was the captain of the team. Like I said, he homeschooled his own girlfriend so that she could get her high school diploma. He graduated a year early. He was just brilliant. And the world lost somebody very, very special. Let's stop that from happening. Let's stop that from happening. Let's let your men know that it's okay to have feelings. And it's okay to feel fragile. It's okay to feel worn out and like, they're the ones that are supposed to keep the wolves away and be the providers. But we can't lay it all on them. We traditionally, everybody worked together and everybody had a part to play in something. And even like my dad's generation where my grandma stayed at home and raised kids, but she was the supporter. My grandfather worked on the road, and so she raised 7 kids. And I don't know. I guess now I'm just mumbling because I just need you to check on your people, and I need you to choose life every time. I need you to choose life. Don't let the depression and a job or a relationship or the economy or your truck broke down, you can't get to work, or what, sometimes it piles up and it gets deep, right? And you have many things that you are facing as obstacles to be able to do what you feel like you need to do to provide for you and yourself, your family, whatever. But don't let that be a deciding moment for you, right? My son had a big long screw in his tire of his truck, so he had a flat tire and a dead battery. Maybe he thought he wasn't going to be able to make it to work, or, but he hadn't lost his job, and he was told he could go into sober living and go through detox and he would be fine. He wouldn't go to jail. He wouldn't have any time to serve over it, and he could start fresh right where he left off. There was not going to be any punishment for that relapse, those 4 days that he had relapsed. But maybe he was tired of feeling like he has hurt everybody so much that he didn't want to keep hurting people that love him. Maybe that was what was going through his head at the time. But I know for a fact that I would much rather have him call me mad, going through it, than to not be able to ever hear him say, "I love you, Mom," ever again. and get defensive over me on Facebook if somebody was flirting too much. That's my mom and whatever, and um, you know, he was so funny, and he loved to play the guitar, and he was good at everything he attempted. Absolutely everything he tried, he was good at it. And the world lost somebody very, very, very wonderful. And I'm sorry, I'm just rambling now at this point, because it means so much to me to try to make sure that other families aren't suffering like this. To try to take the pain from somebody feeling this in the future. Veterans, first responders, they are also a very high risk of suicide rate, or very high suicide rates. Right. Because they deal with trauma so much, and they are worn out. Nurses, look how many hours they actually work on their shifts, and there's so much going on in the world today. It's awesome. It's not awesome. It's almost in what is it, conducive and conducive to being healthy and happy, and the pursuit of happiness, right? Like, we live in a tough world today, and it has always been tough. I mean, don't get me wrong. My family was in the Wild West, Native American and French fur trappers. They were all mixed up in it, and so it's never been easy. And life isn't going to be easy. There's always going to be something that you're going to have to deal with. It's going to be very hard. And if we don't teach the skills and the tools to be able to get through that, then we're just going to keep losing people. So reach out and have these discussions with your kids. Make it a point to have these discussions with your kids. Ask them, have you ever thought about hurting yourself? Has that, there's kids that are cutters. People accidentally commit suicide just because they're reaching out for attention. That's a thing. There's, just check on your people. There's so much going on in this world, and it's just, it's a hard life, right? It can be a hard life depending on what you come from or what your background is, but you don't have to even be suffering from depression for a very long time for it to suddenly seem so much overwhelming that you don't think you should be here anymore. Maybe you were bullied and picked on, like I was, a lot. But I struggled and fought my way through it, and I'm still alive. I mean, I am broken in a bunch of pieces, like a broken egg at the bottom of the chicken coop that's already been stepped on or whatever, or hatched out. The broken shell pieces, I'm very broken. And I am so sad. And I don't know. If there is anything I could have done at all. I mean, up until the days leading to it, he hadn't answered the phone when I called, and he hadn't responded to my messages. And so I wasn't in touch with him for probably a week or so before it happened. And because his addiction and relapse, he didn't want to talk to me, I guess, or he didn't want to he didn't want to be talked down, probably, or he didn't want me to drive out there or something. I don't know. I'll always wonder that. Why he didn't reach out to me. Why he didn't leave me a note or send me a message. I love you, Mom. I didn't get that. We have to end the suicide of our young people. Check on your people and allow the men to feel. Allow them to be more than just a provider. Allow them to have the emotions and to be able to share them without putting them down for it. And if you have an addict in your life, don't make it the end of the world if they relapse. Don't put all that pressure on them if they relapse. Because I had another friend tell me just recently that he was also thinking of taking his own life because he was tired of putting everybody through the pain of his addiction for 20 years or more. And maybe it does take 20 years, but being sober and not having a drug addiction, I see so much more of the world in a brighter way than those that are looking through it through the gray. And I want you to call 988 whenever you need to. And maybe we'll meet down the road through some advocacy group or some presentation or something. I mean, it's a volunteer thing, so I imagine I'll have to be fundraising for gas money to be driving all over the state of South Dakota. But thank you for listening. If you stuck around this entire time, it's over an hour now. Thank you for listening if you did stick around. And you can like and follow, subscribe, all the things on my YouTube. I'm not monetized because I don't have that following yet. I just have a Cash App, so I don't get paid through YouTube or whatever. I don't get paid for any of my videos. I don't have the following needed for that yet. And because until my son's death, there really was no drama for me to share, really, I liked, my videos are mostly like driving through the hills or the animals, and when I lived in the woods by myself in a cabin in the woods off the grid for 2 years, there's some videos from that. My 1962 Ford Fairlane that I drove across the country on historic tags, from South Dakota to Jacksonville, Florida, and back and forth and into Tennessee, and I drove it all over the country before I had a car crash, and before the 2021 flood in Middle Tennessee. Well, that flood, my car crash was exactly a month after the flood. So everything that I was dealing with the flood and stuff, and then the car crash on top, and I woke up on life support and had busted most of my torso up. It was a solid steel car with no seatbelts, and the steering went out at 55 miles an hour, and I had to pull. So that's where the depression from my health and everything was coming from at that point. And then, I lost the cabin and everything, but I still survived it, right? I didn't end it then. And I could have, I had a brief moment where I was like, they're not going to take my cabin from me, They wanted to go in and clear cut because it was on 50 acres of hardwood timber in the woods, right? And so they wanted to take it from me, which they did, and clear cut it. And I was like, well, I'm not going to let them. I'm going to lay in here and set the whole place on fire, right? And, but I didn't. And, I still haven't recovered. I still am renting a room from someone else, and I'm still basically homeless because I don't have the means through because of my health to go back out to work and work as hard as I did. I worked physical labor and I bartended and I've done all kinds of things to try to support my family throughout the years. And now I'm in a position where I can't do that. And living off a disability is impossible. I can't afford my own place. And I can barely feed myself throughout the month. And so but I still haven't been able. I can't give up. I am a role model. I have grandkids and I have children. I have nieces and nephews. I have a lot of people that I would not want to let down if I just gave up. And I don't know. I'm sorry. I've been rambling for so long and I've taken up so much of your time, and you probably got tired of listening to me from the first 5 minutes. Call 988 if you are feeling low, or if you just need to feel like you need your voice to be heard. They will hear your voice and they will send you resources. And maybe through somebody else's story, it will help you and your life and your world and your people. Because my immediate world it's just sad. Like I don't go and do anything anymore. I mean, today I went and handed out these stickers and stuff, and like I said, it was the first time that I actually talked about my son's suicide without getting back in my Jeep and falling apart and having a complete meltdown before I could drive away, and just choose life, right? Choose life, choose your family, choose your children, choose your people, choose your creator, a higher power, whatever you believe as your higher power. You pray. You pray and you pray and you keep praying. Somebody will hear you. And if you do go to church, or you are a Christian and you don't go to church, find a church community. Hopefully it's a healthy one and not a cult. And if you're Native, reach out to your local Native community, whichever it is, even if it's not your tribe. Like in Denver, they have the Denver Urban Indian Center. I know Chicago has great Indian healthcare, and an Urban Indian Center as well. They're the ones that when I had a stroke, I took a train to Chicago from Denver, and they got me Cook County Hospital, Stroger Cook County Hospital, to help me with my brain was swollen. I had fluid on my brain, and I was going blind in my right eye. My optic nerve was smashed, and I was having serious memory issues, and I was just a mess. And I spent 8 months there, and they made sure that they took very good care of me. And when I left Chicago, I didn't have a swollen brain anymore. And so there are communities. You just have to look for them and fight the anxiety to go into an AA meeting. You don't have to be a raging drunk to go to an AA meeting. They also have NA meetings, and I think they still have Al-Anon for family support too. And there's also acupuncture, hypnosis, martial arts. There's all kinds of things, that you can do. Roller skating. I taught my granddaughter to roller skate. I bought her roller skates. I found some really cool roller derby skates when I was in Nashville. And so I taught my granddaughter to roller skate. And when I was doing that, it took me back to the joy of actually doing that as a child, right? So there are things that are just simple things you can do to bring joy back into your life if you feel like you're losing it. And I know that this winter has been long and hard across the nation. But reach out, because they're still answering the phones at 988. And we want you to stay alive. And like I said, you might not know somebody that needs you right this minute. Maybe you haven't met them yet. But if you don't hang in there, you will never know. You'll never know what is going to be missed. And my biggest fear with my son was he was high when he did it. So he woke up on the other side looking down on what was happening. And I don't know what he was thinking or feeling, but I'm pretty sure he knew he made a huge mistake. And it was too late. By then it was too late. So sorry, I've had a long day and I'm really tired, and so I'm gonna end this long, almost an hour and a half rambling video. So I'll give you a break from my voice. But we need more love and patience and mental health care and addiction care in this nation. Those things we really need to focus on. We need to, as the community that can't afford to go to a treatment center that's $150,000 a month or whatever, the middle to lower class community. I don't know really where I'm at in that. I know I'm poor. Well, my daddy would always say, "You're not poor, you're broke." But yeah, we need help for our youth, and we need help for our addicts, and we need some mental health for the people that have mental health issues, and some of them are very dangerous. My mom's neighbor, they have a son with schizophrenia. He and now they're elderly, they're in their 70s. He beat them up very, very badly the other day. And up until that point, the police, the state, nobody would help them. So all these years they've been dealing with him and his schizophrenia and these attacks and rampages and everything on their own, because there's no support for them, until he almost killed them. And then the police said, "We will put him in an institution and he won't ever be able to hurt you again." But he's never going to be able to be allowed to go home again either. So why did it have to get to that point? And why was the detective not interested at all on where the drugs and the gun come from? Does it matter that it wasn't an overdose and it wasn't a murder? Because if he would have sold him fentanyl and he died from it, it would have been murder. So why isn't it murder or some sort of a charge similar when he sold him or gave them the hot gun, right? It was not a legal firearm. And the detective did not care, would not look at the phone, even when the family was like, "Do you want to look at the phone?" No. He wasn't murdered and it wasn't an OD. We don't care what's on his phone. We don't care where it came from. That is Jefferson County, Colorado. That is what you guys have done to Colorado. Colorado used to be a state that did not play around, and they were definitely a 3 strikes state, and they, it was habitual, and they now they're just, it's a free-for-all, and it's a mess. And I spent over 20 years of my life there, and it's a disgrace. It's disgusting. And just the disrespect. My son was not homeless And even if he was, I'm not saying that would make any difference, you know. He had he had a home and a family and children and a job, and he had skills, and he was making good money. And so it wasn't like he was just some hobo loser off the street or whatever. But still, even that hobo loser on the street, we don't know that he wasn't a veteran that didn't, have PTSD to the point that he lost everything or whatever. You don't know that person's story. So be kind and take the time sometimes to smile while you're walking. I notice that when I walk through public up and down the street, even in the Black Hills, sometimes people avoid eye contact, and in the grocery store, they avoid eye contact, but I hold the doors open for elders, and I try to smile and see if they need me to help them reach something on a top shelf. I'm 5'2", so I have to climb up like a little spider monkey just to get to it, but I will if I notice that they need help with something. I had to help a little elderly lady the other day figure out how to put gas in her car, and but I did. It was freezing cold. I think it was like 10 degrees. And so that was not fun, but I did it because I was raised to do those things, right? I was raised to give the elder person the seat on the bus or the train or whatever. We need to parent our own children and not let schools this indoctrination of, changing everything about your child without your permission is not okay. You need to take a more active role in the life of your child. And I really have an issue with people that diagnose a child under the age of even 13 or 16. Because, children are supposed to be able to play and, not always sit still, and drugging and labeling children just so they'll sit in their seat all day at school, and then you send them home with 4 or 5 hours worth of homework when they're 13. We need a lot of work with our school systems, parenting training, parenting classes. They should give parenting training classes even in high school, because you never know when that might it might happen, and I'm gonna let you go on that note, but thank you if you sat through this and listened to this whole thing, and if you know how I have been struggling, and if you know someone that is struggling, maybe you could call 988 and ask how you can help them. You don't have to be on the edge to make that call. Like I said, anybody could call. I could call and ask, how do I help my neighbor? I noticed that my neighbor is not doing the things that she used to be doing. She's not getting out and about. She's, canceling appointments or canceling dinners or brunches or lunches or coffee in the morning or whatever, what can I do to help her, to reach out to her and maybe make her feel better? What are warning signs? Is suddenly one of your friends is giving away some of their favorite things? That's a warning sign. There's a lot of things that people don't realize are warning signs. And so call 988 and ask what you can do. And definitely call when you are down and low and blue and in that dark hole, because sometimes getting out of that hole is really, really hard without any help at all. And I've had to do it several times without any help at all. So I know the struggle. But I don't know everybody's struggle, because everybody's struggle is different. We all have our different issues. We all have different things we're going through. We are all different people, no two of us are exactly alike unless you get that one set of twins that's exactly alike. But we need each other, and we need to show love and patience and kindness. Like, even road rage. Like, really? I honk at you because you cut me off or hit me or whatever. Excuse me. Hold on a second. Okay, alright. Sorry. So, even, people are so unhinged that even honking your horn at them in traffic can get you shot. Like, there is big problems with our nation at this point right now. And we need to face that and quit being distracted by everything else and actually focus on what your life is right here in front of you and your community and how to make it better. Because what did Michael Jackson say? You had to start with the man in the mirror. It's true, though. And when I was younger, there was grandmas on porches that would yell at you if you're out of line and your parents were at work, But reach out. If you think there's somebody that you might be able to get some advice about and use some advice to try to help them, reach out and call 988. You don't have to be the one that is in that position of ready to hurt themselves to be the one to make the call. Please be patient, show more restraint, and teach your children that there's consequences for their actions, and have an open conversation. Keep that open. Don't demean them when they come to you with an issue that they have. Listen to it. It's really an issue for them. And I failed a couple of times with my daughter as she was growing up, and I was like, I went through that in high school too. It's just high school stuff, this and that and the other, whatever. But to her it was very serious. And I failed at one point because I didn't remember how bullying affected me at that point. And I was, working and trying to get through school and trying to raise her, and I was spread so thin that I missed a lot of signs, and luckily she's still alive. But I have lost my son now to suicide, and it's not a group that I wanted to be in, right? When I would hear about it or see it on the internet or whatever, I'd always say, but for the grace of God go I, and now it is me, and now it is us. Stay safe and stay warm, and reach for sobriety and reach for a brighter, happier life for all of us, please. Like, the country is just unhinged right now, and we have to do something for each other. I have a thing where I will tell a complete stranger, mostly female, of course, because I want to seem like I'm whatever, that kind of auntie. But random women, I love those boots. That's a beautiful jacket, or those kind of things, because maybe she doesn't get compliments, right? Maybe she doesn't know what it's like to be told that she's beautiful, or maybe she wore her favorite boots and nobody even noticed, and so I made it a point to make compliments to people, random people that I don't know and have never seen before and may never see again, just because I know what it's like to go through very long periods of time without a compliment. And it's heartbreaking to not be noticed, or to feel like you are the invisible nobody, right? That is heartbreaking. and being bullied. And I still remember being spit in my hair, and like little spit, not just spitballs, they spit in my hair. And I was I was the poor kid in the poor neighborhood, like how does that even happen? I was poorer than the poorer in the neighborhood, and I was picked on a lot, and it damaged me for a long time. But I think it also impacted my adult relationships too, because I made myself become a bartender and a waitress, so I had to present myself to people, right? I had to get out there and be able to speak to people. And so, and then at one point I decided I didn't want to deal with people anymore, because I didn't want my bills being paid relying on if I'm having a good enough day to keep smiling all day. So I went to physical labor, where I didn't have to be nice for tips. And I just showed up and worked, took lunch, went back to work, and went home. You know, some of those crews, you don't even see each other, you don't talk to each other. Some of them, you have your hard hat, your mask, everything, eye protection, all the PPE. You can't really even have a conversation. So you don't have to be in a good mood to make sure that you still can pay your bills. So, find something that makes you happy. Even if it's just sitting on the porch watching the birds, find something that makes you happy. And when you are in need, 988 will be there for you. Much love. Stay safe.